Development Agency, CRA, has been called to be held on Thursday, September 14, 2017, at the regular meeting place at City Hall, City Commission Chambers, 201 North 2nd Street, Palatka, Florida. The meeting is called to commence at 5 o'clock or thereafter. The purpose of the meeting is to discuss and make the recommendations on the proposed CRA fiscal year 2017-18 budget. Please govern yourselves accordingly. We're going to have our call to order with we're going to have our invocation and our pledge at this time. Mr. Reynolds, could you lead us? Everyone, please stand.
Everyone, please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening to take care of the business of the CRA in the city. We ask your blessing for the CRA board as well as the City Commission to guide us and lead us in making these decisions. Thank you for sparing some of the worst of the storm from us, and we also pray for those people who may still need help, and please help them and guide them. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Hill.
Here.
Vice Mayor Brown. Present. Commissioner Campbell.
Present.
Commissioner Forum.
Present.
Commissioner McAdams-Williams.
Here.
And Mr. Sam Dempsey.
Present.
I want to also make record that on late notice, we've got a new county commissioner, District 3, Terry Turner's here. And Mr. Turner, we definitely appreciate, Commissioner Turner, we appreciate you coming in today to sit in on the meetings. Typically, your district sits in with the CRA unless there's another appointee. Commissioner Lible has done it in the past as well. But we definitely appreciate you sitting in today, and we'll get with you after the meeting and see if we can make sure we formalize everything. I had a pretty good contact person to get to you, so we kind of worked it out. But we definitely appreciate you. And just for the record, Commissioner Turner was sworn in and indoctrinated into a hurricane immediately, and he has been very active over these last 10 days. And we definitely commend you for coming in, hitting the ground running. So thank you. If you want to come up, you're welcome to.
Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, I'll just sit here in the friendly section.
Boy, you know this already.
Yeah, you're fitting in okay.
We'll now open the floor up for public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment at this time? No action will be taken. Your comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Seeing no one, we'll close public comment. We'll move on to our agenda. Ms. Lynch has an SBDC presentation at this time.
I don't know how much of a presentation it is. The end of the quarter is at the end of this month. Sherman Lynch, 1100 Beach Street with the SBDC. I guess it was quite a few weeks ago now, I did a presentation to the county, and it was my first presentation since I had started 5 years ago. So I kind of did a little highlight as to the total numbers that we've accumulated since the program was initiated. And the numbers have changed a little bit because I did them as of the end of, instead of the end of June, I did them as the end of August. So in total, I've seen 568 people for over 5,000 hours of consulting time spent. There were 45 businesses that were started, 158 jobs created, 218 jobs retained. Businesses that I've worked with, which are 42 businesses, reported sales increases of $3.5 million, and the total loans and investments were over $20 million. I want to say that these numbers, with the size county that we have, I keep getting told that they're very good numbers, but I think think it's a testament to what the city and the county want to do for their businesses. So I appreciate the fact that you guys do consider this program to be valuable. These numbers are just me. This doesn't include any other staff within our 18 county region. So we all help each other. We all have our specialties. So that's just my hours. So it's probably a little bit more than that. And on top of that, I know, Mr. Suggs, you asked for some specific information pertaining to Palatka. And because of the confidentiality in the small town, I can't really get specific to say, each quarter one business started, and by process of elimination, you'd figure out who that was. So we have to kind of keep it as an overview because of the confidentiality of the program. But I did try to run some numbers. It's also difficult because when I talk to folks that are out of town, I have no way to run reports to accumulate if they were looking at Duval, if they were looking at Putnam, if they were looking at St. John's. So some of these numbers are probably a little higher than what they should be. I know I've got 3 clients right now that I'm working with that are outside the area looking to come into Putnam, and 2 of them Palatka specifically. But 75% of these numbers that I've told to you are for Palatka proper. So the cost of the entire program it's gone up considerably now. It's almost about $110,000, and you guys contribute 20 of that. So for less than 20% of the cost to have somebody here full-time, you get 75% of the benefit. So I think that's when you run numbers, that's pretty good. We've got, I've been working very closely with the Palatka Housing Authority here in town. We've run some special training programs. And we're also trying to, fingers crossed, our month kind of disrupted us a little bit, but we're going to do a Teen Entrepreneur Summit on the 28th, dealing specifically with kids, high school kids that live in the Housing Authority. And what we're going to do is kind of let them know what's out there for them, what's involved, what do you need to do to start a business. So we're going to have a local business owner come in and speak to them, let them know what they've done to get started. We're going to have a social media expert come in and talk to them and let them know how important it is to curtail what you do on social media because it can affect your future. Then we also have little projects that they can do where they'll put, it's like business in a box. It'll be streamers and scissors and tape, and they'll create some kind of product and put a little plan together and present it to the group so they can get an understanding of what's going on there. In October, I'm hoping to start some QuickBooks lunch and learn sessions, not specific curriculum, but little small groups that can come in for an hour and ask specific questions pertaining to what they want to know specifically for their business where QuickBooks is concerned. The Lions Lair, as I think I had touched on this last time, that we created the local business leaders and business owners in the community, trying to link them up with entrepreneurs that are looking for that money that banks won't necessarily lend, between $500 and $10,000. We've got 2 folks going through that process now, and they are in Palatka. Been working with David Dinkins with IFAS. It's in East Palatka, but it's going to affect the entire county. We're trying to turn the State Farmers Market into a food innovation hub. So there's a lot of stuff that we're looking into with EDA funds and things of that nature. Some of the trends that I've been noticing to keep you aware of is that prices, and because I live over there, I'm very aware of it, in St. Johns County and in St. Augustine specifically are going through the roof, and we're identifying that a lot of folks are trying to come over here to live here. So keep that in the back of your mind that it's going to start growing regardless of what statistics say or anything of that nature, because when you've got surrounding populations that tend to exceed in their growth, other communities get the effect of that. The success stories, just a reminder, we've had Life's a Stitch, Gem City Cottage, Ambient Technologies, Jamila Theobald Yoga, and any questions that I can answer, I'd be happy to. I apologize, it's been a little rough of a week. The Florida Bridge Loan has been enacted by the governor. The SBDC is handling that again this year, so I'm not looking forward to all the angry phone calls. But what that is a 6-month interest-free loan that you can get for up to $25,000 for 6 months. It does have to be paid at the end of the 6 months. But it's kind of interim financing, so if businesses were damaged or economically or physically, if they're going to apply for an SBA disaster loan, things of that nature. So spread the word. If anything happened to your business, tell them to come see me and I'll help them through the process. Because I know a lot of businesses have been affected, especially the ladies that had nothing to do today. But to come and listen, so there would be some economic impact. Again, there's no free money out there. Even with FEMA is basically for homes. There's a small amount that's available for that. But the bridge loan is in effect, and the declaration has been called. So SBA disaster loans, the Florida Bridge loan is available for businesses. On Monday, the Mobile Assistance Center is going to be coming to St. Augustine to the Gilmore Center, downtown in Lincolnville. Then it's going to Jacksonville, and then it's going to travel throughout the state. Obviously, the whole state was hit mostly. So I couldn't get them to come to Putnam, but I want to let businesses know, go over to St. Augustine to the Gilmore Center, look for the Mobile Assistance Center. It's a big RV that says SBDC on the side of it. I drove it last year. If they need help with applying for help in any way.
Do the businesses get the same 90-day reprieve that homeowners get on mortgages?
It depends. It'll depend on the specific lender. So if you are having issues, I know last year there were certain lenders that gave 30 days or, allowed one late payment that required without penalty.
I know from the residential side, there's a 90, you can get up to 90-day, you can get a 90-day pushback on mortgages, and it's by federal law. I haven't done the research to see if the businesses can actually have that same relief if they've got mortgages outstanding.
No, it's usually on a lender decision basis, but most lenders have kind of stepped up and understood that the implications of the storm has been a detriment.
Also, in your summit that you're having,
Yes.
the entrepreneurship summit for the youth, there's an entrepreneurship group over at Bethune-Cookman. I think there's some local kids who've gone through the school of business over there. I've taught over there, who would probably be willing to come over and help out as well and give some additional information.
That'd be perfect.
So I can put you in touch with Dean Wright at the School of Business, and maybe get some representation over here as well to help you out.
That's good. This is going to be a pilot, so we're hoping, and we're focusing on these few students, but we're hoping next year we can open it to all the high schools in the county, bus them into a location and do the event for everybody, but make it kind of like you have to be selected.
Right. And also, Commissioner Campbell and Deborah Robinson have contacts at the university as well, and they did some of that during their internship program with the kids as well.
Okay,
So,
perfect. Any information you can pass along is very well accepted.
definitely, however we can help, we'll be glad to. And we think you're doing an outstanding job.
I appreciate that.
Any comments from the agency?
No, thank you. Wonderful
We
job.
definitely thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate all of it.
Thank you. We'll see you in October with the update for the third quarter.
Appreciate you.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll keep that 25, 75. The 25, 75.
Item 2 on the agenda, final proposed TIF CRA budget fiscal year 2017-18. Mr. Reynolds.
Matt Reynolds, Finance Director. I apologize for the lateness of sending out the CRA budget until today, but
We heard there's some other things going on around the county.
nothing big. I did make one change from the CRA budget workshop that we had. I got some input from the CRA board, and they wanted to see some money moved over into a line for festivals, kind of what we've done so far this year. This year's budget, we had, or we were planning to spend a little over $10,000. Of course, 7 of that being reimbursed from a grant that the Bartram group got from the TDC. I went ahead and I took $10,000 out of redevelopment incentives, so I lowered that from $40,000 down to $30,000, and I moved it into the festivals line, so there's a little over $10,000 there. And then the only other change was some of the changes in the other fund lowered the administrative expense reimbursement back to the general fund, so there was a little bit of extra money that I moved into, again, that festivals line. And then in the South Historic District, we're talking less than, I think it was under a couple $100. So I just moved it into a landscaping line there to balance that budget. And then in the North Historic District, if you'll remember, we had a little over $12,000 that was kind of unallocated. I've just put that to general capital improvements, which is where we've put money aside in the past for capital improvement projects that come up for that district. So those are really the only changes, nothing major. Everything else we discussed during the first budget workshop is still in place. So be happy to answer any questions or take any input.
Just one thing, I think we've seen a little more activity as it relates to people coming and looking at houses and making purchases. Some of them I haven't seen, just based on the numbers. We probably should anticipate maybe having to move some stuff around depending on what we get from residential rehab and the TIF programs. That may be the only comment I've got, because I think there's been a lot more activity than it was last year. It's really more than we probably anticipated at this point, and that's a good thing. And I think those incentives are going to be critical to getting some folks to get those properties back up and fully occupied.
In the Central Business District, we have $30,000 for redevelopment incentives, which has kind of always been set aside for either a big program or facade program, those types of things. But we also have put aside $30,000 for home improvement programs. So there's 60 in the Central, there's 40,000 in the South for the home improvement program, and 30 in the North, plus that $12,700. So each fund has quite a bit of money that we could put towards anything that may come up like that during the year. So, and we can always look at, as the year goes on, if anything else comes up.
Matt?
Yes.
I have just a couple of questions. When we're looking at the Christmas lights, we had a slight increase there. Is that to, we had wanted to take them up 11th Street, back behind the chamber and that business district there, that was that increase there, right?
No, the increase was to hire an entity that would put the Christmas lights up and take them down, correct, or just put them up?
I remember that discussion.
Main reason for
The main reason.
That's the main
We'll try
reason.
and expand the area.
Okay.
We will try.
If we could go just 4 more blocks, or 3 blocks, just to take in, if we have to take up a collection. Okay.
Start at Sam's.
Yeah, start at that, yeah. Everybody else,
We'll take
everybody else starts.
We'll take a motion for a donation from graphics.
Yeah. And then the 9132, the transfer to utility fund, that is for the pipe going across. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is for the
Okay.
the match from the Central Business District for the St. Johns River Water Management District grant that we got to replace that potable main.
Okay,
Yes,
just because it's
across.
cut off on mine.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make sure.
There's not a lot of
that I'm
room
clear on
there to get a full description in.
And then I have just 2 more questions that we really do need to promote downtown in Palatka. Do we have any reserves that we could put into some publicity to say, here's Palatka, come and shop here, come and live here, come and do something here. We've talked about it, but we just don't do it. Are there any reserves we could look at for that?
Well, with the way that we budget, I budget all of the available revenues, which means all of the money that we have coming forward from prior years, as well as all of the money that we're going to get in this year. So what we could do is look at some of those revenues I mentioned previously, 30,000 redevelopment incentives, 30,000 home improvement program. Any of those can be shifted around at this point, because I don't think anything is set in stone. It's just kind of we want to put something in place as kind of a little bit of guidance for the year, but as the year progresses, if things change and the CRA wants to go with a different direction, we can always amend the budget and take money from certain lines to put them in others. So
so we can make those proposals
One of the other things.
as we go along.
One of the other things, Mr. Deputy, we've also had some preliminary conversations about trying to get electronic signage up, about making sure that it complies with some of the zoning that we've got for the city, or making changes to put electronic signage on Reed Street, probably near wayfinding, and also some activity signage for downtown, as well as for the city as a whole, but being able to put that somewhere near the River Center and trying to get those costs put into place so that we can actually really use it to promote the activities that are going on, local businesses and things of that nature, specifically for our downtown business areas and also for the city and the activities that are going on, and then try to share the cost in doing that, because I think that'll be critical to at least say, hey, here is, this is, here's downtown Palatka, you're going to make this turn, and having something that catches the eye of everyone. And so those conversations have come up. We haven't put the numbers together on it, and so that's where we are. And so it's probably going to be something that we look at, and we can use some of it, and we can reallocate dollars to get to that point.
Okay, I have one more question. The CRA in past years has been very active in supporting the mural committee, which does so much work downtown. And I know the mural committee goes through 20 to 25,000 brochures a year. So every day, except recently, I see people walking the street with those brochures. That's fine. We have taken that in the past couple years out of our budget. I would like to see us have some funds for art in public places, because my cousin sent me a picture of the fish at our city dock. He's in Indiana. Said, wow. Those things get around. They're unique, they're different, and they add to our, so we should look into that.
You ever in those brochures?
Sometimes I do, but sometimes they're donated, And
If they're donated, there'll be no funds.
If you're donating, then it wouldn't be a budget item.
I'm not asking for the brochures. I'm asking for what we gave was money to put murals up.
Yes,
We actually
that's the
donated
only-
money to put murals up. We didn't donate any money for printing or
Not
anything.
operating or not anything like
Right.
that. The only
Correct.
monies that the CRA has ever done, it has given to the Conley Snyder Mural Committee, was when they were painting murals.
Yeah.
The general fund has $1,000 a year
Okay.
set aside for the Conley Snyder Mural Committee, and that has continued every year. That's in next year's budget. And,
Great.
And Mr. Alexander comes and hands me a letter every year, requesting $1,000, and so that's in the budget. And so that's the actual city in our general fund. We do that.
I just want to support, but if we could also support art in public places, to have some more of those things around, they just make a difference.
Anyone else? I'm sorry, you have anything else, Mr. Deputy?
No.
Anyone else with any comments? Any questions, concerns? Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Any public comment as it relates to the budget? Anything from North Historic, CBD, South Historic? Seeing none. Appreciate that. We'll entertain a motion at this time.
Motion approved.
Second. So motion on the floor in a second. Is there anything else?
Didn't you want a motion to recommend to the city commission the
That's
adoption of the budget?
That's what we're doing.
Oh, okay, so I thought you were the motion to adjourn.
That's next. All right, so there's a motion to approve the recommendation for the budget. Any unreadiness? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Great job.
Sir.
As always.
And also Ms. Tucker and Mr. Griffin. Any other business before the district? The agency? I'm in another meeting. Seeing none, closing comments. Mr. Turner,
Yes, sir.
got anything?
Those are plenty.
Griffin?
No, sir.
No. Ms. Tucker?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Reynolds? Ms. Triggers?
just about ready to turn that into Mr. Griffith, but
Time's up.
that report needs to be redone. Only the trees on my block all survived. All the trees that came down and the moss were down at the riverfront. My trees survived. They have less leaves, but they have the same amount of moss.
Did you pull it off?
Well, we could go out with a rake and get it now, but
I told him that before the meeting.
yes. I'm still going to be working on these trees because we're not giving up until we do something with the trees.
Can we take care of these people first?
People
We'll get
first,
to-
but
we got 60% of our city without
Yeah,
power.
but,
Can we deal with them
yeah.
first?
and that's the next thing I want to say thank you to the mayor because I think he got our power on downtown, and I want to say thank you because you're now number one in the city.
Let's thank the governor's office for responding quickly.
Yeah, well, thank you for doing that because it has made a difference in our lives there. But I'll have that tree thing for you next month.
Appreciate it.
We'll reconvene.
It's on the agenda.
Commissioner Moore,
No comment.
never a dull moment. Commissioner McCaskill.
No comment, Mayor.
Suggs.
No, sir, I'm good.
Rose. Vice Mayor. Really?
Try it again.
Let's move by.
Commissioner Campbell.
Nothing this meeting, sir.
I'll do it for you. One of the critical things that we have, and I'm glad Mr. Deputy talked about it, is making sure that we get in these situations where we got hurricanes, or we got any other disaster in place, in order to get people back to some form of normal, is to make sure that we actually get power back to our business districts and also on our major thoroughfares so that we reduce the incidence of accidents, but we also have an opportunity for people to be able to go get food, to be able to get essential items and things of that nature, and that's critical, and that's one of the things that we will continually work on to try to make sure that we get this grid up early in the process so that people can at least have an opportunity to get to resources. We've got, 2 large hotels right here in this area. We've got a number of restaurants, and it creates the new normal anytime we're in crisis, and we've got to make sure that that's a part of what we do. And so that's it for me. If there's nothing else,
Terry wanted to say,
yes, sir.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. I was in a meeting this week and they made the comment that after this event is over, that they're gonna sit down and work again on the critical items list for the utility companies. So I'll try to keep y'all in the loop on that, where you can also participate in it with the county.
He just took what I want to say in the next.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
That'll be
So
key.
I can tell you, our county representative has been very vocal about some critical issues that pertain to the city. Both he and the city manager were extremely vocal as it related to care of at our homeless shelters and Bread of Life and those places, and making sure that everyone in this community receive consideration, and that the least of these in no particular way at least had some consideration. We had MREs sent over to feed folks who hadn't eaten in 5 days, and I can tell you it was a joint task effort that stemmed from conversations, and it worked out for our citizens. And so we definitely appreciate the voices that we had in the room and moving forward. It's great to see Ms. Popple here. She's been hard at work for 10 long days as well, sitting in all those meetings. We are not by any way out of the water. This is definitely a marathon and not a sprint. And so we need to make sure that if we have the available resources or anything that we lend assistance to many of the folks within the city limits, but also being mindful of those in the Crescent City area, the Martin area, and also the Interlochen areas where roads are washed out, where people